Jacob is adding these batons 50mm from the top of the 4x2s, and that'll give us just about 10 to 15mm of an air gap above, and it'll give clearance to the ground as well. So we're just popping a bit of glue on these, popping the clamp on, and then brad nailing them in, and we're just popping a few of these around the frame, just enough to support the polystyrene to keep it off the ground. So this is me ripping down my scrap pieces of timber, what I found around the shop, to use as the batons, what you just seen Jacob putting on. And what I did first was just chopped a load of rough lengths on the mitre saw, and then I ripped them on the table saw to make all the batons. The next thing I did was to add the insulation, and this was the first piece I did, and I got better as I went along, and I tried a few different methods of cutting the insulation. The first one I did, I marked where the beams were, and then I used a saw to cut through it, and this was a little awkward, so I tried another method after that. You can see Jacob here using, I've put 2 marks, one at either end where the beams are, and then we put a straight edge and draw a line across so we know exactly where to cut. We left a couple of mil extra either side so there was a tight fit, and on some of the boards we had to take a bit more off just to make them slot in. And you can see this probably wasn't the best way to cut the insulation, as the polystyrene is really floppy and I kept nearly snapping it, but I didn't, so I was quite lucky, and this was the last time I cut it like this. So after cutting it with a saw, I brought it over to the frame and I put it up against the corner piece braces and just put a straight edge across, score it with a knife and snap them off. I found this was actually the easiest way to cut the polystyrene, was scoring and snapping. Then Jacob's putting some no more nails onto the brackets, and then we're just pushing the polystyrene on nice and snug. Then the leftover triangle pieces just fit nicely with a little bit of trimming into where the corner braces are. So I tried a slightly different method here. Instead of putting the polystyrene up to the timber, I left it where it was on the table, just measured up quickly, went over to where the polystyrene was, scored and snapped. And this method seemed to work well, so for the remainder of the polystyrene boards I either just placed it up to where I wanted it and quickly scored and snapped, or did it on the grass just next to it if it was a long sheet, and this method worked well. All the bits of scrap polystyrene what was left over I just popped into the bottom of the base. So this is how I cut the larger pieces. I just marked a little black line at either side on the frame, and then I put a 3x2 straight edge down and just score along the line and snap, as you'll see here. Once I'd fitted all the polystyrene, I just got the weed control, which was the overhang, and just pulled it tight all the way around the frame and stapled it down. This helps keep the weed control nice and tight, and it also helps to keep all the polystyrene in secure and hopefully stop any vermin getting in and under. So just generally tidying it up. So the next thing I was going to do was add this foil, insulation and vapour barrier. I purchased this off a guy on Facebook Marketplace, and he sold it as 5 by 5 meters square, and as you can see this is 3 by 1 meter square, so I'll be returning this to the gentleman this weekend.